Welcome to Chalk It Out, where we spill the tea on what it's really like to be an educator. Hi, I'm Malorie.
And I'm Greta.
All right, welcome back to Chalk It Out. We're here with Greta and Malorie.
So happy to be back.
All right. So today we thought we'd do something a little different. But first, you want to talk about what we're going to be talking about today?
Everyone's favorite topic.
PLC. Woohoo! For those of you who don't know, that stands for, another acronym, Professional Learning Communities. And so it's very important in a school, though, because it is actually important if they are done correctly.
Yeah, and I joke about them being everyone's favorite things because most, if they are not done well, then they can be a huge waste of time. And so it's really you get out of them what you put in.
Exactly, yes, for sure. You have to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
You have to buy into it.
You do. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. But I think that they can be really effective. So we're going to go into a little bit about what they are, how we would describe them, and why they fail.
Okay, perfect. So for those listening who are parents out there, teachers come together usually once a week, so it does take a lot of time. They usually work with their same grade level, if not the same subject area, and the purpose is to come together. Usually there's an admin member there, an instructional coach, or a lead teacher, and then the teacher's there.
Yes, and it's usually during plan time, like during specials time. So it's either 45 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on how much time you have.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we are going to start describing them using a word. I'll start. So first word, collaboration, because you have to work as a team. You can't go in there solo, right? So they come into a team for that meeting and they start thinking about data. They start thinking about planning, but it's really a collaboration where everyone is kind of throwing out some action plans in there, providing feedback. That way we make sure that we are growing our students.
Yes. The second word, which is actually two words, but hyphenated, data-driven, because if you are not looking at data during these meetings, then you are not doing it correctly. And data is the root of teaching. You cannot be an effective teacher if you're not looking at data.
Yeah, and it usually will start with some kind of baseline data so you know exactly where your students are. And then from there, you usually gather some different student work along the way. And then there's usually some kind of post-assessment just to see that growth, which I think is important because then you can celebrate and say, hey, look at what we did together.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always good to see student growth.
For sure. And do we want to talk about a little bit about what the student work looks like, what it could look like?
Sure. Yeah.
So sometimes it's like as easy as a quick exit ticket, which is like old school, like a quick little quiz, 1 or 2 question quiz.
Yeah, it could even be describe how you met the learning target today.
Yes. Yeah. It could be progress monitoring, like in the moment. So you can say, 20 of my students mastered the standard out of the 25. Mm-hmm. It could be observations. We've started doing some video recordings for some of my grade levels at my school, which is really fascinating because you can see the whole picture and it really tells okay, who's getting it, who's not, what scaffolds are teachers providing. And sometimes they don't even realize it. But on the video, it's like, you reminded them 3 times to do this. So I like videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be an actual test, could be a written response, could be part of a written response. We could just laser focus in on how are the students introducing their topic? How are they writing their thesis statement? What's their text evidence look like? And just laser focus on one little part of it.
That's the piece that people forget about because I think in their mind, they're we have to write a whole 5-paragraph essay and bring that in every single week. Ugh, that'd be exhausting.
Yeah, and also to grade that every week.
It's there's no way. Yeah. So we focus down on that one area we want to just look at. Yeah. And I love having a document camera up. So when teachers come up, you can actually see the student work and highlight, where they were showing mastery of things.
Yeah. Especially with math too. You can say this student solved, just take one problem from a student workbook page and really look at okay, how did they solve this problem? Yeah. What work were they doing? And then let's group them now according to the work that they did.
Exactly. That's where you can pick up on those, misconceptions too.
Yeah. So I think that's the second piece. After you look at the data, then you group the students, right?
Yes. So from there, teachers kind of put them in proficiency bands. So maybe that's a beginning understanding, maybe it's approaching, they're proficient. And then don't forget about those advanced students because they also deserve, some improvement as well, or they can grow in their learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, every teacher comes together, they kind of put their data usually in 4 piles is what I like to do. And then you can kind of name, okay, this is their strengths. This is one next step. And then that helps when you're either doing a reteach or a model lesson or an extension of that lesson. So yes, perfect. Third word. What do we talk about?
It was,
I could get into a little about progress monitoring, which is kind of similar to the data driven. But progress monitoring is very important just so you can actually name those students who may need a extra help or yes, they got it. So I think that's important, progress monitoring.
I would say an open mind. Or, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's important that you, and maybe open mind is not the right word for this, but you have to look at the data objectively and not in a, like, you have to look at the data with an open mind, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, you can't look at the data and say, well, they didn't learn this last year and that's why they don't have it.
Exactly.
You have to say, okay, what can I do? This is where they're at. This is the reality. What can I do as a teacher that will help them? Not just like, well, they didn't do their homework or they didn't listen in class. Like, okay, well, how do you get them engaged in the lesson?
I 100% agree. And I think that's why it's important at the beginning, too, to set some norms about some of the words that we're using. A lot of teachers will say the low kids, It's like they're not low. They're just approaching or they're beginning understanding that standard, but they're not low. So I think changing that, too, is really important with the norms. And then I agree. So I think that's why at the beginning of the year, you come together and make like your PLC, whatever it is that you all are going to agree to. And just we're all in this data together. It's not just one teacher. So we are all working on this.
Yeah.
So everyone has ownership.
Right. Because it's a community.
Yes. Exactly why it's community.
Full circle moment.
Strange. Any other words that come to mind for you? I think protocol. I know everyone's like, oh no. But some kind of protocol where you can take notes. Otherwise, it's kind of like you just meet briefly almost. And it's kind of like we planned something, but it's not documented. And more for the data part, like it's nice to have that organized somewhere.
Yeah.
Some kind of protocol. And there's so many different ones out there, but I think it's more important just to document things so you can actually keep track of which students are growing, what actions you took as a teacher to help improve those students too.
I agree. And I think something that is often lacking is the learning part. And so with my old school, we did do a little bit of this where they would like bring in a different instructional strategy that we would all read about or watch a video about. And then we would say, okay, can this apply to the situation? Can we try it on? And then come back and debrief about the new like teaching move that we did. So I think that often gets thrown out the window.
No, that's important. Yeah. And then I think it's easier for teachers to understand like, oh, we're actually going to try this and see if it helps too. So it's like something concrete they can go into the classroom and try.
Right.
So yeah, so true.
But I think that gets tricky because you need a facilitator to bring in that new learning, right? Yeah. Unless it's like unless you have like a team of 4, say, and, okay, Malorie, what did you try? And then we're all going to try this thing because you had better data than us or whatever. Like in that way, you're learning from each other. But if you're in a team of 2 or 3, I feel like it could fall to the facilitator to bring in this new learning, right? Yes. For everyone. But if you don't have access to their data ahead of time, then you don't really know what skills they might need to teach. And so then I think that's probably why it gets so tricky.
It does. I know at one of my schools I've been at, they actually had to turn in their work like a few days prior, just so when I was an instructional coach, I took a lot of time looking at the data, seeing those misconceptions, then looked at their upcoming lesson, but it took a lot of prep. Right. Just to make sure you really understood. And then there was, you could tie in some extra things when they came in, but the facilitator has to take charge of that. Yeah. So, and fortunately, there's only one instructional coach usually, and so it's really hard to manage all those teams.
Totally.
Yeah.
Especially at a K-8.
Yeah, 100%. You can't do them all. Okay. All right, so why do PLCs fail?
Lots and lots of reasons. I think one is lack of teacher buy-in.
Yes.
So if you come into the meeting with your mindset that they're not useful, that it's not going to work for you, and you're not prepared with data, you're not prepared with a lesson to talk about, you're not prepared with any of that stuff, then of course it's going to be a waste of time.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, because you're just walking in not really knowing anything, and then you're taking a lot of time trying to look at everything and get set up. And by then it's like, okay, it's time to go. So.
Yeah. And like you should have some sort of data where you can come in and be like, okay, I just taught this lesson. Like I have some data on it. Like here's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? Like, even if you're like not as prepared as you could have been on like the specific thing you agreed on, like you should be able to come
with something.
Exactly.
Especially when you just taught the lesson. It's like, oh, this one section did not go well. Can you help me like backtrack and see what went wrong or something, you know?
Right.
Yeah, because every time you teach, it's like, ooh, I could have done that maybe a little differently, and it's okay that you learn from it. So.
Yeah. I think when some people get really stuck on compliance, like we have to do this because it's compliant, and then they lose the ability to think through how it might be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
And they just don't even try.
Yeah. They just kind of show up like, oh, I'm here. Yeah.
Right. Which, like, to an extent, I understand. Like, going to district professional developments, like, my mindset is already, this is compliance, this is whatever. And so my mind is a little bit made up in that way. So I get it. But at the same time, like, if you're doing this every week,
might as well make the most out of it.
right. Yeah. It's like you're still teaching, you're still looking at data, you're still making instructional decisions. You might as well get feedback from your peers.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. So what's another reason?
I think the time commitment too. I think, yeah, it's just because you do have to spend a little of that prep time to get prepared. But like you said, you can do it in the moment. But I think a lot of people aren't prepared. I know the PLCs that are stronger or usually have like their data ready. They're like, oh, I want to talk about this. Like this small group, they weren't getting it. And then brainstorming, I think you get so much more out of it if you have an idea of what you want to talk about. But again, you have to know your class and kind of look at it. It doesn't take but, 10 minutes, I feel like, just to quickly look through and be like, oh, this math problem right here, I need to go back and reteach.
Yeah. And I think, like, going off of the compliance conversation, I think if you have teachers that only follow the curriculum or get really stuck on doing everything with fidelity or like following the pacing guide, they're like, we don't have time to reteach it, or we don't have, the curriculum says to do it this way, so we have to do it this way. And you're like,
you can have 10 minutes. Yeah.
But we're actually not telling you to follow the curriculum with fidelity. That message has been given to a lot of people, so I get it, but...
And then it's like, well, why not use like your small group time or something? There's always 10 or 15 minutes here or there. You can be like, hey, 5 of you, come over here. Let's look at this problem you did. Let's look at your error. What did we do wrong here?
You have to be a flexible thinker.
Flexible. Exactly.
You have to be flexible, which is a core quality that you need as a teacher. So if you don't have that,
try to stretch yourself. Yeah. Like stretch yourself.
You should quit. Just kidding. Just kidding. Do what Malorie said, not what I said.
I'm like, you could do it. You got to flex.
Yeah, no, it is important to learn that skill in life in general.
Mm-hmm. So it's just like teach with your strengths. We have our strengths, but you can have other strengths. You just got to practice.
Yeah. You have to learn. You have to know what your strengths are so that you can use the other skills and like practice with them, like what you're saying.
Yeah. And then I think another reason they fail is just maybe, I think some people feel intimidated when there's admin in there, but we've always gone in, at least at the schools I've worked at, I feel like this is not part of the evaluation. We're honestly here to like support you, give supports, and then it's helpful too when you go and observe to see what they've planned. I feel like it's a lot easier because then you're like, oh yeah, we talked about the standard, got it. Yeah. So I think that's also hard for teachers too, because I think they get a little worried. At the beginning, it's like, well, why are they in here? Especially when you're new.
Totally.
But by the end, it's like, it's fine. We're a team. So.
Yeah. Okay. So going back to flexibility, another reason why I think they fail, and it has to do with the protocol too, is I once had a facilitator who so rigidly followed the protocol that like he would ask a question and I was like, we literally just talked about this. Like I just answered this, but just because it was the next question to ask, I was like, did you freaking listen to what I was saying, dude? Like, hello.
It wasn't even like, oh, I know you just said this. Is there anything you want to add? Nothing like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. And so I was just like, okay. So that's when it did feel really compliant.
The facilitator also needs to be flexible, and it's okay to change paths a little then. That is hard, though. I feel like that takes some years, because I just remember when I would prep, I was like, I think this is going to be the misconception, but it's like, if it's not, then that's totally fine,
Right.
Usually it was, though, because data doesn't lie, so.
Yeah.
But everyone in the team should be flexible. Let's just say that.
Yes. Flexibility all around.
Mm-hmm. And every once in a while something comes up, but I think consistently, I think we talked about that, being consistent with meeting, because it does get hard if, like, even once a month, if something gets canceled, it's really difficult. Kind of throws the whole momentum off, and then you're off. I don't know.
Yeah, because then you're like, well, I've already like retaught this thing that we were going to talk about, so now I need to like it's almost like you just have to reset.
Yeah. So I think no matter what, you meet, and then, yeah, unless someone's obviously absent. But other than that, like, you should be meeting regularly.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like, during conference weeks and things like that, there's not PLCs, because that could be highly stressful when there's already so much going on.
Agree.
Flexible within that, too, within admin.
Indeed, it's the word of the day.
Yes, it is. All right. That kind of sums up PLCs. So
Yeah.
anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Okay.